Do the LDS only have the Aaronic Priesthood? Is the Melchizedek Priesthood reserved for Zion? By Jesus and Andy. C. 2025. DNC 85-3 warns that those who do not live the law of consecration should not have their names enrolled with the people of God, and that genealogy is not to be kept among them until they live the higher law. Joseph received this revelation in Missouri during the early attempts to build Zion. Its meaning is plain: the records, covenants, and priesthood claims of Zion belong only to a consecrated, unified, revelation-guided people. Anything less is a form, not the fullness. This revelation quietly but decisively conflicts with the modern LDS claim to the Melchizedek priesthood in its fullness. The saints today live the lower law by design and by history. A more honest and healing admission would be simple. The LDS Church functions under the Aaronic, preparatory priesthood because it has chosen the preparatory law. This recognition would not diminish the Church, it would clarify its role. Lower law obedience can still be pleasing to God, but it produces a mixed fruit, because it grows in the soil of a Babylon-style hierarchy rather than the unity and consent required by King Jesus' Zion. Joseph taught repeatedly that the Melchizedek priesthood is the authority to receive the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven and the knowledge of God, DNC 107:19. He described a people governed directly by revelation, where every man and woman shall speak in the name of God the Lord, DNC 120. He taught that Zion would be of one heart and one mind, Moses 7:18, and that the temple was not primarily a place of ritual, but a place to meet God, prophesy, and be unified through the Holy Ghost. This fits perfectly with the Kirtland Temple dedication, DNC 109. Joseph prayed that the people would be clothed with power from on high, receive angels, obtain knowledge, and be bound together in love and unity. The Kirtland vision was a prophetic community, not a lower law ritual. Power from on high, not power from administration, was its organizing principle. But after Joseph's martyrdom, the saints chose the more familiar structure of the lower law. Brigham Young openly taught that the people were not prepared for Joseph's higher teachings. The model he built was earnest, but it reflected the Aaronic pattern: ordinances, ritual symbolism, hierarchical authority, increased administrative control, and a massive genealogy system that contradicts the instructions of DNC 85 for a non-Zion people. The Lord's final revelation to Brigham Young, DNC 136, received at winter quarters, reinforces this shift, and also fulfills a central point in all allegoric end-times prophecy: the rejection of heaven by the iron kingdom of Christianity. LDS who, like ancient Israel, were led by a dispensational prophet and rejected the higher law. There, in winter quarters, the Lord establishes a temporary, hierarchical camp of Israel's structure and Aaronic-style order for their survival, not a Melchizedek order for Zion. He warns of suffering and purification, and then promises, "I will redeem Zion in mine own due time." DNC 136:18. This identifies the Utah Church as a wilderness period church, nourished but not exalted, parallel to the woman of Revelation 12 who was preserved for a time, times, and half a time, the prophetic 1260-day allegory used by Daniel, Isaiah, and John to preserve the truth until the end of times. A preserved people, not yet a Zion people. A people under the lesser portion until a future day. A woman in travail, unable to birth Zion. DNC 85, DNC 109, and DNC 136 agree perfectly. The higher law was revealed. The people rejected it. The Lord sustained them under the lesser law. Zion would come only when a people finally choose the higher law again. This does not condemn the LDS Church. It clarifies its place in the prophetic timeline. Confusion arises only when a people living the lower law claim the higher law. When the Aaronic order is exercised as though it were Melchizedek, people confuse hierarchy with heavenly order, tradition with truth, and ceremony with spiritual power. The result is sincerity, but not Zion. The scriptures themselves teach this distinction. The Melchizedek priesthood holds the key of the mysteries of the kingdom, DNC 84:19. The Aaronic priesthood holds the key of the ministering of angels and the preparatory gospel, DNC 84:26-28. A people may choose which law to live, but they cannot claim both. So what is needed now? Not rebellion. Not antagonism. Not division. What is needed is honesty, humility, and courage. If the LDS Church openly acknowledged that it functions under the Aaronic or preparatory priesthood while retaining its current programs, ordinances, culture, and traditions, it would liberate the people rather than weaken them. It would remove the burden of claiming a fullness God has withheld until Zion is ready. It would empower individuals, families, neighborhoods, and communities to seek and live the higher law without contradiction or fear, and the LDS Church could continue to function as it does today, encouraging families and communities to live the higher law and access God directly in community discussion and consent. Always the local unity of Christ's love. Never the majority rules vote Lucifer suggested. The Lord wishes all his children to choose the higher law freely, without coercion, shame, intimidation, or institutional control. Darkness is bound when no one chooses darkness. Zion is born when people choose love over hierarchy, revelation over tradition, and consent over compulsion. The practice of Zion begins in families, then neighborhoods, then communities, a heavenly republic of hearts governed by King Jesus. Conclusion. We recognize we are at the end of times. We see fulfilled prophecy as confusion reigns, and all is not as we supposed. If the LDS Church embraced this honest reset, publicly acknowledging the Aaronic order they already live, it would not diminish their work, it would ennoble it. It would free the Church from the impossible weight of claiming a fullness it does not possess, and free its members to seek the higher law with integrity. This single act of humility could ignite a natural reformation, families choosing the higher way, neighborhoods practicing consent, communities becoming sanctuaries of peace. Zion does not begin in Salt Lake or in DC, it begins in hearts, homes, and local gatherings of people who choose the government of King Jesus over the traditions of men.